It'll pop on. Yep. Now you can call it to order.
Okay, I'm calling the meeting of Weathersfield School Board to order at 6:01 p.m. I guess we will start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. My flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The first thing we have here is changes and additions to the agenda, and I totally forgot about that we were going to talk about appointing Jamie Turner to the board tonight. So I'd like to add that to the agenda. Are Kristen and Jackie, are you guys ready to vote on that now, or do you want to talk about that in executive session and vote on it after that?
I'm prepared to vote now.
Same.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, you can just take it right now. Yep.
Oh, okay. So okay. I move to appoint Jamie Turner to the Weathersfield School Board.
I second the motion.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark is not here right now. He had family stuff to attend to. So that is unanimous, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's good. We'll call it 3-0 for now, and then when Mark gets here, I'm sure he'll add. And what has to happen just procedurally, Jamie, is now that you've been appointed, you'll have to go see the town clerk and get sworn in. So you can certainly sit, ex officio as a board member tonight. You won't be able to vote on anything until you're sworn in. So we'll take care of that. And then I think since town meeting's so close, and I don't know, did you go and get your name on the ballot? Okay, great. So, I mean, we'll continue, and everybody, quite frankly, that is up for election will have to get sworn in after that. But you could do it as early as tomorrow if you wanted to, and then you'll just have to do it again after the election. But welcome aboard.
Okay, and next up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 12th. Did everyone have a chance to read these over?
Yeah, I have one minor correction. Under item C, FY 22 budget preparation, paragraph down where it says the LNA position 4, it needs a $sign, $24,395.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yep, that's a good catch.
good catch. And then I just wanted to make sure, I see on here it said that the minutes from the previous meetings in this one, they were both approved, but the one did have a change. My name was wrong in it. So was that corrected? I think it was the 12/8 minutes.
It's been corrected.
Okay, great.
It's a lot harder to correct them now that they get posted pre you guys approving them. So that's proved to be a little bit difficult. Lori and I had to work on that.
Oh.
So I can correct them from my end, but I can't correct the one that's already up there. So we're working out the kinks of it. But I said, you better be prepared because they make very tiny corrections every single meeting almost. So be prepared for this for next time.
Yeah, we're supposed to by law post draft minutes 5 days after.
So I don't know. She figured it out somehow, but we'll figure.
Yeah, I'm sure she can change it. Yeah.
Yeah, we just have to go back and forth some.
Yeah, we just have to let her know. Yeah.
We got it done. It's only a $sign, so it shouldn't be too hard. But yes,
No.
And I'll tell you, Anne Marie and Jean Marie, I am always switching your names around. I didn't. You've been on the board for a while, and I never did it till this year. This year, and I catch myself most of the time, but I mix both of them and mix the last name.
It's okay.
I'm sure you'll find it again sometime. I try to.
Like I said, Jean Marie can adopt me anytime. It's fine.
Yeah, I've called her Anne Marie Oakman.
There you
Hey,
go.
I've done it
Becky,
both
if that-
ways and everywhere.
If that's the worst thing you do, honey, you're going to heven.
You're doing all right. These parents that can't decide
I
on
didn't
one
think either
first
of you
name,
would mind.
they have to use two.
Okay. So then do I have a motion to approve them with the one correction?
I'll motion to approve the minutes from the January 12th, 2021 meeting with one correction of adding a $ before the LNA. I lost it. The LNA amount of $24,395.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That's unanimous. We'll move on to the principal's report. We've changed up the school board agenda schedule a little bit to kind of match up with the other school boards in our district to make things easier for Lori and everybody.
Yeah.
So
Listen, I don't mind going first. You know I'm going to talk somewhere in there first, last, second. Although David gives me a good run for my money. So I just have a couple of quick things to tell the board tonight. And that is that 10 students returned from remote only or home study back into, actually, we got 2 more after the school began, after January 25th. So I think we have 12 now. I think we're up to 12. And that's nice. That has been delightful to see those kids return. I will say that we just were so happy to be in the band room, but you know, that's the old section of the school. And even though we kept the heating thermostat on 80, the kids complained it was too cold. And I think parents started to ask about that too. So we did move 8th grade to the pause room. Now, in order to get them all in, I think we have 25. In order to get them all in, they couldn't be 6 feet apart, but we could do it at 5 feet apart. So we had to get special permission. Jim Taft took care of that. And he spoke with the risk management group that consults. Remember, we're one of the 5 supervisory unions in the state that they consult with. And we got approval. So our 8th graders are 5 feet apart. And as the nurse said to me once, it doesn't matter how far apart they are. If one gets it, we're quarantining the whole bunch. And that's true, of course. But we didn't want to violate any rules. We've been very, very strict. I consider us a very safe and healthy school. We are not crossing pods. We have been religious in following all of the guidelines by the state. And I think, frankly, that's why we've been so healthy. So I did want you aware that there was a change in order for us to move to the pause room. We did have to have special permission. So I've gone up and checked and it is 5 feet. Everybody's 5 feet apart. So wanted you aware of that. Jay Vila is working with Hannaford's in Claremont. He came up with this idea. His kids are doing reducing the carbon footprint. It's all kinds of environmental studies, anti-pollution, saving the earth, and they're doing posters. And he showed me some of them. And he said, wouldn't these be great on a reusable bag that people use in grocery stores? So I believe he and Wendy Allen started to talk about it, and they're working on this. It's a project that won't materialize right away, but we're trying to get those bags done so that we can put them in local stores and it will have the kids' artwork. So that's a really important project that I wanted to share with you. And Katie Ahern and Barb Martin and I have been very busy. We're interviewing BCBAs. We do have an opening. And in fact, there are 2 openings in the supervisory union. So I'm sure, David, that's an SU position. So I'm sure that at some point, David will update the SU board on our luck regarding those interviews. And that's all I have.
And you're muted.
Is that Ann's?
Thank you. Sorry.
And I think Ginger Winberg has joined us by phone. Ginger, are you on by phone? You can just hit *6 and then we'll hear you.
You guys, I just called Ginger and she is on the phone and I didn't know what the number was. *6, Ginger. So hit *6 and you should be able to talk on your phone.
Can we hear you, Ginger? That's okay. Do you want to, BJ, do you want to mute and just work with her on how to get that done?
Okay. I guess we can move on to the superintendent's report, and then we can
Yeah,
talk
then
to
we can-
Jennifer.
Yeah, then we can work. Yeah, and again, I'm not going to be long either, but I wanted to talk a little bit, and we'll get into some of this later on when we do budget, because that's changing, sometimes by the day, by the hour. But essentially, the legislature is in session now, and I've had really good contact with John Harrison and Elizabeth Burrows. They've been really keeping us up to date on what's going on. Right now, the legislature is really in COVID land. No surprise. They're working on legislation that will determine how they're going to release this next round of ESSER money and how they're going to support schools in this COVID environment. So we should know we should know more. I think next week or the week after vacation, they have what's called crossover, usually after town meeting, and that's where the Senate bills go over to the House and the House bills go over to the Senate. But with all the COVID legislation, because it's pending and it's important, they're going to cross that legislation over next week. So I think our business office and all of us will have, an idea on what kind of monies are going to be available to support us in FY22 next year and FY23. And that'll have an impact certainly on our, on our budgets to a certain degree, but no direction formally yet. The other 2 bills that are being worked on right now that are really important to us, the equalized pupil bill, they're going to change the way they calculate equalized pupil. As you know, this year, equalized pupil, it didn't really help us. We've got high school kids. Yeah, Ginger might want to go to *6 again, because we might be getting an echo from her phone. I'm not sure of that, but it's possible. *6 will mute her, and then *6 will unmute her. So anyhow, the equalized pupil, as these high school students move in and they're creating these extra costs for tuition, the problem is the equalized pupil doesn't keep up with that because it's capped on both ends at 3% growth on a 3-year average. So you could have 9 high school kids move in, but you won't get credit for 9 kids. So the legislature is looking at that. They're also looking at some sort of an adder, a percentage adder for schools that are rural and smaller, because they tend to struggle a little more financially. So I'll keep you posted on that bill, but that's gonna really impact us. And the last one is the healthcare bill. As you know, the state negotiates healthcare for our teachers, so we don't have to negotiate it locally anymore. Thank God, because that was a challenge. But they're changing that up a little bit. And part of what they're trying to do is, especially with support staff, they're trying to make it part of the law that the commission would have to consider a support staff member's income in terms of their copay. So it would be a sort of a graduated copay and a graduated premium because, as you know, healthcare costs are incredibly expensive. And for somebody who can't afford the copay or can't afford the premium, and quite frankly, some of our support staff can't, then there'll be a little bit of help there. So I'll keep you posted on that. The only other couple of things that I have is that the anti-racism task force is off and running. Mark's been your representative on that team. The SU board is the policy board. So that's where a lot of this is getting discussed, because we're going to start by adopting an SU-wide policy. And then once we have that draft in place, we'll start to roll that out to the communities. We'll have some community forums to discuss that policy, and it'll affect everything from the way we seek applicants for jobs, to the way we set up curriculum, to the way we deal with hazing, harassment, and bullying. So it'll have some implications for all of our schools. Two more things. We are going to be talking a little bit at the SU level about the portrait of a graduate and that strategic plan. We sort of put that, we kind of put that on the back burner a little bit, but there are a lot of people that worked really hard on that. So we're thinking that maybe at our annual meetings, for Windsor, it would be that Thursday, and for you, it would be that Saturday. Maybe we would touch on that strategic plan with our communities so they would know, some of the goals for our schools and our school districts. So I'll keep you posted on that. But, we don't want to take away from the budget presentation, but sometimes it's good for the community to know what they're paying for and what we're really working on and what our priorities are going forward. And the last thing is and Jean knows that we are going to have to, in the next month, submit to the Agency of Education what's called a recovery plan, because there's assumptions being made that the students that are either remote or aren't attending necessarily full days, that there's going to be some need to do some recovery with those kids and intervention with those kids. And this is part of what I think the state is planning to provide some support through those ESSER monies, so that we can, we can hire staff if they're willing to come in this summer. And I know they're all exhausted, and I don't know who will volunteer. We're hoping some will. And this will be for regular ed students and for special education students. We'll probably centralize it, but we'll provide transportation because we won't be completely out of COVID land this summer. So we want to just be careful with how we deal with the safety and restriction issues. But again, it won't matter that much, because we will be picking kids up. We'll be meeting some kids at the school and bringing them to the location. We're not sure yet where the location will be. Probably Windsor, just because it's central, but we'll keep you posted on that as well. But hopefully it'll be by the use of grant monies. And I just want to hats off to the entire staff, especially the nurse. This continues to be a hard job. And I know that it looks like it's a shorter day, but I will tell you that, working with students who are, all ages, all varieties, as you know, and having them keep their masks on and keep socially distanced, worry about those restrictions, the hand washing, sanitizing tables, desks. I will tell you that from my observation, it's exhausting work. And I think our staff deserves a lot of credit for what they do. I think our nurses deserve a lot of credit. And I think our community deserves a lot of credit for the way they support us. So that's it for me, unless anybody has questions.
Thanks, David.
I just wanted to add one thing to David's comments, and I do think people have done a yeoman's job, not just teachers and support staff, but families. We have so many of them driving kids to and from school. Our kids are working hard. Our Track My Progress scores knocked my socks off. I cannot begin to tell you how impressed that I am with them. because I think the kids are just doing the best they can. But I wanted to remind folks that even though it's an abbreviated day, it's 5 hours, our babies ride on the bus an hour in and an hour out. So I've got 5 and 6-year-olds wearing masks 7 hours a day. That is just incredible. And that takes such courage and tenacity and stamina. So I just want to really congratulate our kids for all that they are putting up with and enduring, because they're really troopers.
I agree very much, Jean Marie, and I agree with everything David said, and I'm so glad that the sounds like everything's going well on the legislative end, so that's good.
Yeah, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. Now it's time for public participation. I know we have Ginger Winberg wanted to say something. Is she available right now?
I think she's figured it out. *6. Ginger, are you there?
She had it once and then she's muted again.
Yeah.
David, as owner, can you unmute her?
You know, I was just wondering about that, but what's the phone number?
The 961 ending in 96.
Hold on, let me just see. Yeah, it's saying that I can't unmute somebody on the phone. So that's interesting, right? And I don't know. Let me make sure that the ownership of this meeting is where it belongs, right? Yeah,
Ginger,
I think
try
I have ownership.
*6 one more time.
Let me see if I can.
I think she's got it. I think if she speaks, we'll hear her.
Yeah, I think you're on now, Ginger. It looks like she unmuted. Yeah, I can't unmute. I can only mute. That's what it's telling me. Can you?
Does Ginger hear us?
Well, she just muted again. I don't know if you can hear us, Ginger, but just hit *6. Yep, now you're good. Now you should be able to talk. It's funny, she's not muted right now, but we don't hear her.
Does she maybe want to email you, BJ, just what she would like to say, and then maybe you could just read it to us? Would that work?
Actually, BJ's on the phone with her now, I think.
Maybe
I know if you're not,
on speaker.
what's that?
Maybe BJ could just put her on speaker if she has a speaker button.
That's what she's going to
Let's
try
try
to do.
that now.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Let's
we
hear
can.
Okay. I am so sorry to take up your time. Here's what I am here to talk to you about, or just to mention, from the Historical Society, from the Board of Governors. They're concerned about the teaching of civics. They wanted to know, is it being taught in what grades? Is it being taught? And I could not answer that. I said, I know it always was, at the very least in the junior high, and it was a really robust part of the curriculum then. But they feel it's very important, and it's not something I know you have an answer for tonight, but I could check back later and to get an answer to take to them, to the meeting.
Yeah, you know what might be best, Ginger, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but BJ can translate this to you if you can't. I think what might be best is, you know, Angela Du, who's our Director of Curriculum Instruction, she could get back to you and kind of give you, you know, a sense of what, you know, what and where it gets taught. I know what you're saying, Ginger, in terms of the importance, especially in light of some of the, you know, the national events and understanding the different branches of government and, you know, the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch. I think, you know, in today's day and age, it's important for kids to understand that and to know that. So, so I think, you know, again, rather than take up a ton of time tonight, we can get back to you with specifics on that if that's okay with you.
We do have the history teacher, Ryan Santangelo. If he would like, I believe he was prepared to say a few things about this.
Oh, good. Ryan can give us maybe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if Ginger wants to reach out directly to me, that's fine too. If I can get her email from someone, I'm sure I could do that. But yeah, we are still teaching civics. And
At home. Or no, at home. Can I come to school in the morning?
Yeah, and then we can
Ryan,
get
can you call
Ryan.
yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
and Ryan can reach right out.
That's enough for me. I will reach out to Ryan, then I will reach out to Angela Ledoux, and probably get my answers, I guess. Thank you so much for all the trouble. I'm sorry to cause you the trouble.
No, thanks, Ginger. And Ryan, we didn't mean to interrupt you, but did you want to just talk real, you know, sort of give us the brief sense of what's going on in the world of civics?
yeah, I'm right now well, we haven't gotten to it in 5th grade yet, but I teach it in 5, and then 7, 8, and 6 is sort of reserved for kind of a more worldly view of different types of governments. But in 7th and 8th right now, we're focusing on, the 3 branches of government. Right now, we're working on, you know, sort of like a mock bill. You know, students are writing a bill to a law, going through that process. I review it with them quite a bit because it is something that seems to struggle to stick with them. So we've been reviewing it, and every assignment not every assignment, but every something like a test, I'll have like a civics section where we'll review like the 3 branches and powers this test, and we're doing you know, the process of a bill passing through, and then next time I want to do the checks and balances, and then judicial review. So I'm covering it. I'm trying to cover it in sort of bite-sized chunks so they can understand it.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Especially at that age, you sort of really have to break it down. And I'm sure you try to carefully, you know, associate that with some of the current events and some of the stuff that's going on. To get, you know, they certainly nowadays they're so connected through, you know, social media and news stations that, you know, you can't move without running squarely into you know, government issues. So that's nice to know, Ryan, that you're doing that.
Just so moving forward, I'd love to get them into the community and really be part of the sort of civic-minded, you know, community member. But I didn't want to tackle that. A, my first year, and B, during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Smart.
Thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you too, Dr. Baker.
No, thanks, Ginger.
Thanks, Ginger.
Okay, I'm going to sign off now, and I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care, Ginger. Do we have any other people wanted to speak on items not on the agenda? I don't see any hands raised or any people. Okay, I guess we'll move on to items for discussion. Oh, yeah, okay. The first one up is the budget. I know David has a bit of good news on the budget, don't you, David?
Yeah, and Ed, you certainly can. I don't know if you want to walk people through this. I have the tax worksheet and I have the budget that you sent, but one of the things I didn't report out tonight is that, our business office got some news from the agency that the tax yield, which was predicted to be, 9%, has dropped significantly because the education fund, which is fed by a lot of different sources, including, rooms and meals tax and, a lot of different places that money comes from to feed that ed fund. And those places did better than was anticipated. Part of the reason I'm told by two of the legislators I talked to this week is because Vermont passed a law, I think it was either last year or the year before, that all internet sales now are taxable. So, but they didn't realize that it was going to generate the kind of revenue that it generated. So every time you order something on Amazon, Amazon pays, Vermont a state tax on those items. So that's part of the reason why that is flush. So Ed, I don't know, do you want to work folks through the tax worksheet? The bottom line hasn't changed. You approved your budget. That's what's going to go to the voters. Do you want to talk about what's changed, Ed? You might be muted too, Ed.
Nothing has changed.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, nothing has changed since I sent this out on Saturday. So the only thing that's changed is the property tax or the property yield. And there were 3 iterations. One was 10,768. One was 10,998, and the last one we got was 11,385. And I sent an email out to David and Anne Marie, asking which one of the numbers, if they wanted to use the highest of the numbers. And they said, yes, use the highest of the numbers. And that's why the tax rate or the tax increase went down.
So Ed, do you want to talk about, because again, from last board meeting to this board meeting, the tax rate, given those numbers that you've got, did go down. Do you want to just talk quickly about by how much?
Yeah, it went down by about 9 cents.
By about 9 pennies?
Yeah, and you can see that on that sheet I sent out, the Weathersfield Taunton report. In there, there's all the educational funding formula with the calculations, and it shows you that it's $1.97 projected right now, which is an 18.56 cents increase. And before it was about 28 cents. So it's actually 10 cents.
Okay, so it went down just about 10 cents.
Yeah.
And what did you say it is? 18.56 cents now?
Yes.
Okay. So I can throw that up on the screen. We don't really have to. I mean, Ed did send out a pre copy of that. I just wondered. Yeah, I just wondered too if at some point, I know we put a lot of work into stuffing those envelopes, and I think in that brochure, Anne, what did you say? Did you say the increase was going to be? Was it 28?
I didn't give an exact amount because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Okay.
So I didn't give an amount. But I know we did make a bit about the education fund, which, as you've just explained, that is no longer a problem. So that's not where any of our increase will be coming from. The main driver of our tax increase for this year will be the rather large increase in our high school tuition.
Yeah.
It's also affected a bit by some other things, but it's mostly the high school tuition.
Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that when you do talk about your budget, I would caution the board that when we're doing the comparisons in any of this budgetary, we're going from budget FY21, the year we're in, and we're comparing that to budget FY22, the year we're going to go into. And when we do that, it's important for people to realize that some of the tax cuts that you're talking about, well, for instance, the assistant principal isn't really relevant, and because it is wasn't budgeted for in FY21, so it was actually an addition in FY22 that you didn't put in. So technically, it's not a cut when you're looking at budget to budget.
It's just that you didn't add it, right?
Right. It's just that you didn't add it.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not trying to remember. I don't think I mentioned that actually in the.
I don't think you
No.
did either. I was just
No.
cautioning you, if you do have that, just discuss it in public. I've had some questions on that, and
No.
it's yeah. So I just wanted to make clear that that's.
Well, I
it's
did
not a-
mention
it's not
it,
a
but I
cut.
said we didn't fill 2 proposed new positions.
Yeah, proposed,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
I think really the next step, and this would be probably BJ, Jean, Ann, and myself. We have a PowerPoint template that we've used in the past that incorporates all of the stuff that Ed has sent to us, and usually we try to go through numbers, the SU budget, high school numbers, enrollment figures, and then the final impact on the tax rate. And BJ, I assume we still have that PowerPoint template, right?
Actually, we received it from Susan, and I believe Jackie is working on it. But probably she'll need to talk with BJ to get some details. But
How will you guys present that?
I just want to say though, like, if it's easier, I do not need to be involved with it. It's just, I can do it if need be. I certainly don't need that on my plate. I just don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to add a 4th party if it's going to be faster for BJ and David and Ed to work together. But if you
Yeah.
mark it up and you want to give it to me, I'm
Share-
happy to
I
do
can
it.
share that with them then. We have what Susan had done for last year. Have you done, so if you've made any changes to it, can you save it back to that same spot, Jackie? And we'll go from there.
No, I always work from a copy, so it's
Okay.
all set.
Okay.
I think the biggest question, and we could meet one more time before the 27th, if we needed to, but the biggest question really is who's going to do the presentation. Last year, I believe Sean did it with you, Ann. Did you do some of it, Ann?
Susan did quite a bit of it, actually.
Okay.
Sean did some, but Susan did most of the budget presentation. I did a
Okay.
little spiel about, the forms that you need to fill out if you make less than
A certain amount.
a
Yep.
certain amount to make sure that you pay the correct
Yeah.
amount rather than paying,
I mean, I've always been I've always felt strongly that the budget you're bringing to the voters, good, bad, or indifferent, is the board's budget, right? You spent a lot of time on it. The BAC certainly gave some input to that. The administration does the initial piece, and we certainly help with anything we're not going to propose or cut. But I really think it does have some power to it when the board, and it doesn't matter who, but when the board, does that presentation. And I don't know how comfortable you feel about that. I mean, certainly, we'll help you. It'll be virtual this year, so we can put the slides right up on the screen. It's just a matter of, BJ making sure that the PowerPoint, the numbers are correct and everything is the way it was supposed to be. And using Susan's template is fine. Or using Susan's PowerPoint from last year is fine. Do you feel comfortable, Ann, with that?
Yeah, I'm better off online than I am in person. So I get a little more nervous when it's a big room full of people, but online I'm pretty able to keep my nerves under control. So
Yeah, from the comfort of your own living room, right?
Yeah.
We can, and we'll be, we're there to back you up. I mean, I think what we did last year is we just made sure everybody had a copy of the PowerPoint before we presented it. And I think that's when we decided, or the board decided among themselves, okay, maybe Jackie could take these 2 slides or Kristen could take this slide. I mean, it's not that you have to do it all by yourself, but I think the community does appreciate when the board takes that ownership, if you're comfortable.
yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at that presentation from last year, and maybe BJ and I and I don't know if Jackie wants to be involved or if maybe Jamie wants to be involved or Kristen
Yeah,
or
there you
whoever wants to be involved. We can do something to, we'll have to get together in between now and then and work on that.
Yeah. That's good. Well, just keep in mind that when 2 board members work on it with BJ, me, Gene, whoever helps, that's fine. Once we get to 3 board members, we have to warn that at
Oh, okay.
a meeting. So we can decide, what we need to do. I know we have next week off, but I'll be working some of that time. I mean, I'll be glad to help get. I don't have a copy. I have a copy of the old template we used to use. I think BJ.
I'll share what I have with everybody, what Susan had done last year with everybody, and then we can all
That's
look
good.
at it and talk about it from there.
Yeah, and then we just need to get those right numbers in there.
Yeah.
And the 2 pieces that are really critical, I think, especially for this year, the enrollment numbers, the high school numbers, and then that bottom line and the impact on the tax rate. That's really what's critical. And then I think this is the part you did last year, Ann, as well. I think you had a nice slide on that income sensitivity, so that people know that there are probably 60+ % of Weathersfield taxpayers that will get, an abatement on their taxes, so they don't. It might be. I think last year we said it was between 60 and 70%. So I think that's important to have that slide or something about that. So yeah. So why don't you send it out to all of us and we'll just take a look at it, and then maybe a few of us can set up a time to get together and make the changes.
Sounds good.
DJ has nothing to do. Jackie's got her hand up too, Ann.
Oh, Jackie?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to say that I have no problem with helping put together the presentation if that helps. I mean, if you guys want to go through it, and I've done enough PowerPoint presentations, the slides, go pretty easy. We don't have to stick to any one specific template, whether it was Susan's or the one from prior years. And it might be better to move it onto Google Slides rather than being a PowerPoint presentation anyway.
That's a good idea, Jackie.
Yeah. Hers was not in Google Slides last year, right?
Right.
BJ? I don't think so. Right.
So you guys just let me know what your pleasure is, and I'm happy to help with that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll pull a meeting together. BJ's got her hand up too.
BJ?
Has Jackie, have you done any work on this that we should be looking into? And we did switch it back and forth to PowerPoint and Google last year, just to let you know, because one computer did Google and one did PowerPoint. It was back up on Google and not PowerPoint. So we can switch it. That's not a problem, Jackie. But Jackie, did you do any work on this to date?
I did some. I'm not completely stuck with the design, so it's nothing that couldn't be changed that quickly. An extra.
Share with us and we can go from there, Jean Marie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. If you share it with,
over,
yeah, that'd be good.
David.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, that's good. And then we can go from there. I find with those Google Slides, and sometimes the simpler the better. I mean, I think sometimes when you do more information than you need to do, then people might get the sense that we're hiding behind some voodoo economics or some crazy math. I mean, I think we just get it out there. This is the bottom line. This is what we did to get to this bottom line. This is what's driving the overages. And here's the tax rate. I think as simple as that. But if you send that to BJ, Gene, and I, and Ann, then we'll find a time maybe for all of us to get together.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't need it this week and gave me through the weekend, I could have the content you guys could change, and I could have the design to a good place.
That's great. Perfect.
Sounds good. Okay, so should we move on then to the hot water tank replacement?
Right. Ed, do you want to speak to this, or do you want me to speak to this?
I think that it's a pretty straightforward conversation. The hot water heater went, and for about a weekend and then some, Jim Taft had to be out there monitoring the tank because it wasn't released pressure correctly, and it needed to be replaced because what could have happened is that with the pressure not being released, it could have exploded and really caused a problem with the school. Would have probably had to be shut down for a while. So given those choices, the decision to replace the tank was, we couldn't do anything but replace the tank. Otherwise, school might not be in session right now.
Yeah, and it's all replaced, right, Ed?
Yes.
Yeah. So Ed, that was was not a, unlike our home water tanks that, we might be able to get upgraded for 2,000 or 3,000. That's not what happens with these commercial water tanks. So it was a little bit of a hefty number. Ed,
It was $26,000.
Okay, $26,000. And Ed, at one point, you and Jim were talking about maybe taking that out of capital reserve. Does that need a board vote? Is that what you're recommending, or would you let it go for now?
No, I don't think you need a board vote. I mean, if the board wants us to take it out of capital reserve, this is Weathersfield's unlike Heartland, David, in the sense that they don't need a town vote.
Correct.
To use the capital reserve. I mean, if the board wants to use the capital reserve to cover the cost of this, and which is what I'd recommend, all they have to say is, please use the capital reserve.
Okay. So I think that might be the question for tonight. Then, do you have the number off the top of your head? What's in the capital reserve right now?
Yes, I do. As of today, hold on one sec. Well, as of the end of January, there is $367,043.44.
Yeah. And, that is the purpose for capital reserve, of these big capital items that just sort of spring on us. So what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, it might be good to have a motion just to, the motion would just simply be to use the capital reserve fund to pay for the replacement of the water heater.
So I want to make.
I'll make that motion. You need me to repeat it all?
Becky, do you have that motion?
What, to make a motion to use the capital
Jackie,
reserve funds for the cost of the water
To
tank?
pay for the replacement of a water heater at Weathersfield. Yep.
6,000? Is that how you'd like it?
In the amount of 26,000, right?
Okay.
I'll second.
Kristen seconded.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we still got 3 board members, so that's 3-0. Mark's still not here yet, but that's fine. That's all. We need 3 votes.
Okay.
All right, so Ed, that sounds like we've got that all taken care of, okay?
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Now we're up to COVID-19 updates.
Yeah, and I think Jean, I think did a good job covering the essentials on this. We've, we made that switch to extending the day, and we brought some of the remote kids back into the building. I think, again, not to overstate this, but that's a credit to the planning that went into some of the scheduling to add that hour and bring those remote kids back. We're still following the restrictions that are outlined by the VDH. We went through another round of surveillance testing last week, and we have a fair number of staff who volunteered to be tested, and we didn't have any positive tests this time, which was good. The general consensus is that these restrictions, because the vaccine is, rolling out a little better, but it's still slow, that we'll probably have these restrictions at least through the end of the year. So that means we'll have the distancing, the masking, the sanitizing, and the keeping kids contained in pods. I don't think we're going to see a change to that before the end of this school year. And luckily our kids are really cooperative. Our teachers really seem to have it down pat. And other than the exhaustion that it can cause at the end of the day, I think that's kind of where we're at. I noticed the next agenda item is the athletic update, because we have been following the COVID restrictions or the governor's orders on sports. So maybe we'll just wait till we get to that agenda item. So Jean or Angie or anybody else that wants to add to that. I know Angie has been doing a little weekly survey about stress with our staff. We want to keep up.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that every Friday Angie sends that out, and we get a pretty good response. And I will tell you, and Angie, you can update me, but last I looked, 75% of the faculty and staff felt extraordinarily stressed on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the absolute stressed out. They fall between a 4 and a 5. So in light of that, I'm going to be frank, I've been pretty protective. I've had people want to talk to me about graduation and dances and starting up basketball and all kinds of things. And even a winter carnival was proposed. And all of those ideas were great, and I love them. And of course, being my last year, it would be so exciting for me to be a part of it. But I must represent my faculty and staff. They are in the middle of a pandemic, coming to work every day. It takes so much courage. And I just feel that I have to be sensitive to how they're feeling. And I will tell you, I'm very proud of our administrative team. Every week we look at that data. Principals care about how their teachers are feeling, and the support staff. So every week, David, you're at those meetings on Wednesday. We look at that data and we talk about what it means. So as a result of it, I see that maybe we're not as creative as we've been in the past. Maybe we're not as free thinking about starting things up or doing things. And frankly, I had a faculty meeting today. I like to be transparent because I know we have a meeting tomorrow morning at 9:00, the principals, David, and we're going to talk about athletics. And I did broach it with my faculty and staff, and they're scared to death. They're afraid to have kids in pods, other than we've been fastidious about keeping our own pods separate. And so I said, well, just give me a feeling, because I've got to represent you at this meeting tomorrow. And so they all wrote in the chat, and I didn't have anybody who felt we were ready for athletics. No one of my entire faculty. Let me tell you, they're good about coming to meetings. So I just have to share that. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow at our athletic meeting. It's an in-house meeting. I don't know. I just know that, we watch the news and we hear about the variants, and we hear about that maybe some of the vaccines are not going to address some of these, and they're quicker spreading. And now we're seeing children becoming ill and dying. And you've seen, I don't have to tell you, y'all watch the news, you see what's going on in Chicago and some other places. And I think we just have to remember it's a pandemic. It's extraordinary times. Nobody's going to die if we don't open up basketball, for example. Nobody's going to die if we don't have a winter carnival. But we could die if we lower our standards and forget that we really have to protect all in the school community. So I would be remiss if I didn't share with all of you that fear is very much alive and well. You know who I'm talking about. These are outstanding teachers. A few months ago, Jessica Wilmot came before you, and she showed you a PowerPoint and she equated it to drowning. We have worked very hard to mend those fences. We have a champion team we're working with. David Melnick is working with us. We started doing surveys. Every week, the administrative team talks about the mental health of our faculty and staff. And that's kids and families too. So I just want you to know that there's a lot really putting pressure on all of us. The stress level's high. I'm very cognizant of it as an effective leader, and I do dare to lead. Sometimes I make top-down decisions. Sometimes I'm tough. I'm a tough old bird. I always do it in the name of children. And in order for my children to be well and happy, my faculty and staff must be well and happy. So I think we've done a great job as an administrative team listening and really backing off. You know we have, because David, you know some of those initiatives we've talked about. But we're meeting with the task force every week. We meet with the union every week. These are very important ways that we're communicating to keep people safe and happy. And I think we're doing a good job, but we've got to be vigilant and we've got to stay strong.
Mhm. Yeah.
Very
So Angie I see Angie's hand.
Okay, Angie?
Anne Marie, I have the data from last Friday's survey. If you'd like me to share, it would take a couple minutes, maybe 3 to 5.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this last week, so the survey went out mid-afternoon on Friday, and then it closes maybe 9 or 10 on Monday morning. So we had 131 responses. You can see that 33% of those were classroom teachers. And we did break out unified arts teachers and our special educators because their job duties are different. Although I do think the stresses they feel, even though their jobs are different, the stressors that they feel are similar. So do keep that in mind when we're looking at the results. And then this is overall of the 131 responses. This time I gave the staff a graphic so I wanted to make sure that we calibrated what we meant by a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and using a graphic that Dave Melnick, our trauma trainer, has provided us in the years as we've talked about stress. This is a graphic that's a bell curve, and 1 and 2 are on the left side of the bell curve, and 4 and 5 are on the right side of the bell curve. So as you move across the bell curve, that means the stress is increasing. And the 3 is moderate stress. That's right in the middle of the bell curve. So that means you have pretty much a mix of good and bad stress. So here, what this graphic is showing you that 50.4% of our staff are reporting moderate to high levels of stress, and another 20.6% are reporting a moderate level of stress. What I've done is taken those stress levels and shown the representation from each of the roles. And this is the low stress level. And these numbers here indicate one person in each of these categories. So 1 paraeducator, 1 unified arts teacher, 5 others, and others are like our BCBAs, our speech language people that they're not technically a special educator, so they're in another category. And then administration, that's principals, assistant principals, central office administrators. This slide is staff reporting a stress level of 2, low to moderate stress. We have, so 38%, or approximately 38% of these responses were classroom teachers. So that's 11 classroom teachers. School nurses here, 3, we have 5 school nurses. Wait, we have 4 school nurses. So, and then We have administrators here, 3 administrators. And then at a stress level, reporting a stress level 3, we see our special educators here, and our classroom teachers here, and our para educators. And as we move up, you'll see that those categories become more broadly, there's more representation in there. So 4 at a moderate to high stress level, 50% of these, or approximately 50%, is our classroom teachers. And if we considered our unified art teacher, we have 1 of those, and our special educators. So add another 8 to this, and that brings, more than half, definitely more than half, are feeling a high level of stress. Now, that's half of the respondents, and the number of respondents we got, 131, is about 55-60% of our total staff. So if they're a representative sample, we could make the conclusion that 50% of staff reporting a moderate level teacher. Then the 5, we had about 20 people are reporting a high level of stress. So that's some classroom teachers, our paraeducators, special educators, school nurses. That's also school counselors, by the way. So just to be clear, I was mistaken earlier. This last slide that I'm going to share with you is the comparison of the stress levels over time from the first time we gave the survey to last Friday. So what this illustrates is, has the overall number of people or percentage of responses increased in certain levels. So it seems like it's been fairly static with the variation happening in the moderate. So I think what this is telling you is that given week to week, there's not a broad variation, and over time, I think we will see it level off. But what is interesting to note is that 2 weeks ago, where the yellow one, 129, was the end of that week of adding an hour and adding the remote only students who returned back to in-person. And the stress, number of staff reporting moderate to high was different than the first week we did it, which it was 7 points lower. So I think that's interesting. So, I mean, it is helping us to understand that we can say, I think we have the data to show that, yes, our staff are reporting the anecdotal evidence that we have that our staff are experiencing higher than normal levels of stress is being shown in the data. I think the data is supporting that over time. And I'm hoping that some of the things that we are trying to do to support our staff, and I think as their older family members who are at risk get vaccinated, I'm hoping that we see those numbers go down as we get into the end of March and early April, when some of our, I think the older population, the 70s and older, will be vaccinated in Vermont. So I know that will be helpful when we know that our more fragile family members and friends will be vaccinated. So that's what I hope. Are there any questions on this?
I was curious, is this just all COVID stress, or are we not sure if maybe some of this is related to something else?
It's hard to say because we didn't do a survey like this in the past. So it would be really interesting to know if stress levels are high. So typically I noticed when I was assistant principal that the week before, so last week, the 2 weeks before vacation, and at the Heartland School, we would end up with, the kids would be acting out. They were tired. And then also what coincides with that is your staff are tired. So then it's like the perfect storm. And so there would be a lot of behavioral challenges. And so it's hard to say if this is COVID, if it's all COVID stress, because typically the weeks between Christmas break or the holiday break and the first of the year in February are like that's your go time. It's where you get the bulk of your curriculum work in. This last survey we did ask for teachers to respond to tell us one thing that was affecting their stress negatively and one thing that was affecting their stress positively. And of course, there was a whole variety of responses to that, but some of the things that recurred were the pandemic, student behaviors. There were several comments on not being able to teach as much as we have in the past and concerned about students not being prepared. And the things that I thought that really impressed me in terms of what we're supporting our staff, what was a positive effect on their stress level, teamwork and collaboration. So our relationships prove to be, I think one of the strongest things that we do to help support each other.
Great. Does anyone else have anything for Angie?
No, the only thing I'd say, Anne Marie, just to close this out a little bit. First of all, I want to thank Angie for doing that every week and putting that data together. It's really helpful. And we do have, as Jean said, we have the trauma team and the administrative team working on ways to try to relieve some of that stress. It's, as we approach the vacation too, I mean, I think it's just, and the changes that we've done. But that was number D on the agenda, but I want to go back to because D was to review the stress level.
Kind of
So
combined.
we accomplished that. I want to go back to the athletic discussion because Jean is right. We have, the Vermont Principals Association, the VPA, coordinates athletics for 7 through 12. Most of the K through 6 athletic programs are either recreational or run by town recreation departments. You happen to, in Weathersfield, run your own K6 program because you don't have a town recreation department. But what we're talking about tonight and what Jean was referring to is really the VPA regulated 7 through 12. And that's what the governor was talking about the other day when he talked about at the high school level being able to open up to have games. So 9 through 12, we've been practicing 9 through 12. And, at Windsor, we have a 50,000 square foot gym, ceiling height of, I don't know, 80 feet, 70 feet. It's a big facility if you've ever been in that gymnasium. So you can spread kids out pretty good. You can, we've got all kinds of, sterilization and sanitization, pieces in place. Kids have to wear masks. They have to, for practices, stay reasonably distanced. But when the scrimmaging started and now the games are going to start, I mean, that does add, a level of concern, I think, on the part of administration and the coaches to some degree and the athletic director. But we've decided at the high school level to follow the governor's order. Now, I will tell you that whenever I send my little weekend update, to the community, invariably I get, not 20, 30, but several emails back. What about 7 and 8, right? Because people know that 7 and 8 is also controlled by the VPA. They also know that some of the districts surrounding us, many of the districts surrounding us, including places like Woodstock and Hartford and Springfield, are running middle school programs, grades 7 and 8. So I think there is that question and concern about what can we do. I know that in the buildings, both principals, not just Jean Marie, but Christine Bourne, feel strongly that because of the way they're using their multipurpose rooms and gymnasiums for classrooms, and for food service delivery and a lot of sanitized activities, it just doesn't seem the time to open up those gymnasium spaces. That being said, the meeting Jean Marie's talking about is a meeting that is going to happen with Jean Marie and Christine Bourne and Jim Taft, who is our athletic director at Windsor, and myself, at least initially. We didn't open this up to a lot of people. We wanted to just talk talk amongst ourselves, as they say on Coffee Talk. But we're gonna have that conversation tomorrow, because one of the things we're thinking is, and it's only a thought, and I would like to have, you know, some feedback from the board. You've already heard Jean Marie's feedback and her staff. I think there is a certain level of anxiety about, you know, mixing kids. But I will tell you that already, at least at Heartland, I don't know about at Weathersfield, but I know that there are kids who are going to gymnastics and going to dance and going. Christine Bourne at Heartland has several kids who are going to Hartford to do middle level athletics. So they're mixing it up as we speak right now. So the question is, how can we control it? What can we do? So one of the conversations we're going to have tomorrow is there a way to centralize something so we can use the big space, that 50,000 square foot gymnasium at Windsor, maybe combine some of our coaches with our JV and varsity coaches, and maybe open something up a couple of nights a week, and maybe Saturday morning or whatever, just to let those 7th and 8th graders, especially those 8th graders who will be wanting to you know, try out for JV teams next year at whatever high school they choose to go to. And so the question really is around whether or not, you know, the principals feel okay about the control that we can have over those activities if we move them into one big space. So I don't know if people have thoughts about that or want to make some comments on that. I don't think it, matter of fact, I know after, you know, many meetings, it's not going to happen in our small gymnasiums and multi-purpose rooms in our K-8 schools. So I'm open to any comments, thoughts, because we want to go into that meeting informed tomorrow morning.
Hi,
What do
David.
people
I'll
think?
chime in just a little bit. So I do know that, hi, everybody. I do know that we do have 25 probably plus student athletes from Weathersfield attending other schools to play basketball. And that doesn't include dance, gymnastics, ice hockey. That's just basketball. So I do think if there was a solution that we could come to figure out how to keep our kids in house, because we're mixing pods, we're mixing a lot right now by allowing our students to go play elsewhere, because we can't really have control over what they do if we're not offering anything. So I do know that we have student athletes that are going to play elsewhere right now. And I would welcome any to be a part of that conversation, to chime in with anything that I can offer. But I do know that that's something that's happening.
Yeah, and Jessica, like I said, we wanted to start small, so we're going to have that initial conversation. Of course, if we decide something, we'll pull you in. Do you have any initial reactions to? Because I realize that some of those 20 to 25, and I believe you if that's what you're saying to us, kids that are other places playing, at some, middle level version of that or some elementary version of that, but would you think would you say there are benefits to, I suppose it's conveniently, it would be benefit to keep kids closer to home and maybe use, a big space like Windsor to make that happen. And one of the things we were thinking is we could do it upon dismissal, and we could actually provide at least transportation to that gym for those kids who want to play. Then parents would have to pick them up at Windsor when we're done. And again, this is all just initial conversation. We're not going to do anything till after February break. But I just wondered, what your reaction to that is, Jessica. And some of those kids that are already in these other programs, is it your understanding that some of them might just stay there because they're comfortable there now? I mean, so what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if offered at Weathersfield or closer to Weathersfield, student athletes and families would opt to stay closer to home. I know that some of the kids who are practicing and playing with other teams are getting home really late at night, and it's not super ideal. They're having one practice a week or two practices a week. They're not getting home till 9 p.m. And that's not super ideal either for them to turn around, try to get some work done, and then get up and go to school in the morning. I think whatever we can do, my only concern with doing it right after dismissal is having the parents be able to pick up. And how
You
would
mean
that work with
afterwards,
parents with parents who work, and kind of what that plan would be. I'm not sure. I'd probably try to poll a couple of the families that I do know that are playing elsewhere if they would come back to Weathersfield after already being elsewhere. I have a feeling that they would, just to be closer to home. I know like Ludlow and Chester is not super close to us right now, so I think that would be probably ideal, considering we're not playing games, there's no competition, nobody's playing and trying to get spots. AAU might be a little bit different, but for those that are just practicing with the middle levels, it might be different.
I would assume that AAU right now is shut down. Is anybody doing AAU right now that you know of, Jessica?
I'll
Yes,
try
I believe so.
If you, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Kristen.
Kristen had her hand up. Kristen, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I know that we, there are for sure 7th graders renting, our 7th grade coach that's renting out the Ludlow Armory when they're practicing, with some 6th graders too. 5-6 AAU is going in Ludlow. So those are, and which is Weathersfield, Springfield, and Chester kids. That's like 2 days a week, both of those. Well, each one day a week. So that's 2 days a week. So I think that just like also as a parent, like I would rather have my kid playing just with Weathersfielders, but I know that, I mean, it's mixing pods, but they're being like distanced and masked and not playing games, but they're at least able, you know, they each have to bring their own ball and they have to sanitize it before and after. And it's very like, you know, following regulations, but I know that those things are going on for sure.
That's good to know.
So,
Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful. The other thing we thought, and this is certainly not disparaging any of the volunteers that help out at Weathersfield or at Heartland. At Heartland, you know, it's always been traditionally run through the rec department, but you know, 7 and 8 is a little bit different because again, non-COVID, they do schedule games. But the other thing, you know, we thought about is that if we could get, you know, maybe, you know, 1 or 2 coaches, you know, from Weathersfield, 1 or 2 coaches from Heartland, but then the JV and varsity coaches would be there, so that it could also be as much of a coaching clinic as it could be a good for the kids, right? I mean, part of what we're trying to do is, you know, not too many Vermont kids go to the NBA, so we're not too worried about that. But the truth is, good coaching develops good ball players, and it develops a good high school career. So I mean, I think that that was the thought. I mean, I don't think we're thinking, you know, 5 days a week, and I mean, I think we just have to, as Jean said, we have to, you know, admit the reality of where we are in the middle of a pandemic. How these other places, you know, Ludlow, because I hear this from my colleague superintendents. I don't know how they're pulling it off. I don't know what that's creating for their staff or their schools. It's just, and maybe we've been overcautious. I mean, I get it, but I think we really need to make that decision moving forward. So anybody else that wanted to weigh in, I'd love to hear those opinions.
Jackie?
I think your mute button might be on, Jackie.
Yeah, I had to wait a moment. So my husband's playing with my dog and it's kind of loud. I guess you know, it's certainly, it's a touchy subject because it is sports. I'm a little uneasy because of the fact that it seems like we'd be increasing our risk rather than, you know, mitigating it and bringing our kids. It sounds like kids are still going to go where they're going to go. So are we really increasing, are we really keeping our kids in town, or we're just adding more chances of our town mixing with our other SU towns? I'm not sure if I see the complete benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great, Jackie. I thought that as well. I think it's hard now because everybody has already started. So
Yeah.
people have already started and they've already joined. And so it's the pulling from one to come back to Weathersfield. I think that that's one of the issues as well. But unfortunately, if it was offered, I think people would have stayed in-house earlier if we would have been able to offer that to families and student athletes. But I think if we open up to anything, whether it be at Windsor and we do a bigger thing, to limiting it and doing, sanitizing, being really smart about everything, and then only keeping it open to the coaches, which all of our coaches are parents, so they're exposed anyways. Our kids go home to their parents and see them, so it's not, you're not having an outsider like, me, I don't have any kids, so I'm not in the SU system every day. I'm not giving any germs. So I think that that's a different approach, but I definitely understand that as well.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add to the athletic update? No,
Yeah,
I guess.
it's been one of the hardest decisions, and I don't want people to think we take it lightly. I think I told you when we started the JV basketball, we had to quarantine the JV team. They had to miss a week of school because one of the JV players brought COVID to the JV practice, and the coach and the JV team had to quarantine. They missed academics in lieu of sports. And I think it's a careful balancing game and trying to figure it out. The other side though is that from what the governor says and the good doctor who is sort of that state infectious control, Dr. Levine, is that his name? Levine, I think, is the
Yes.
guy who runs Vermont. They claim to have done the scientific analysis and look and see what the contagion rate is and what's the transmissibility. I think that's what they're trying to base it on. And so that's what we have to go with. But I tend to agree with Jessica. And that's what I think we're going to discuss tomorrow. Are we too far down the line now? Have people already found, those places to go and to play? And so we'll.
One of the teachers told us today at the faculty meeting that the basketball team in the town she lives, 2 of the boys have COVID. So we know that team's going into quarantine, and that's one of the local teams I heard Jessica mention. So and the other thing I heard teachers say today is, listen, let high school lead the way. They're trying it. It starts Friday. Let's see how it goes. If high school is successful over the next 2 weeks, we're not talking about starting basketball anyway. It's too late. But we are talking about, David, a clinic. That's what you're describing.
That's essentially what we're talking. Right.
So I think probably what you'll hear me say tomorrow, no surprises. You never wonder what I'm thinking anyway. But I think what you'll hear me say is what I heard teachers say to me today. And that is, what if we let the high school lead the way? It opens on Friday. Let's see where they go. If there's a week or two that it's fantastic, then maybe it's time to put that clinic in place.
Yeah.
It is too late, as Jessica says, though, to start back.
My other question is, hasn't high school been practicing all along, like for
Yes.
the past how many weeks? So
Three, yeah.
the only thing that they're doing differently is adding in games. We're not even asking to add in games. I think our kids just want to practice with their teammates, with their classmates. They don't.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from one parent yet that they really want to play games. 7th and 8th grade want to play games. I've just heard they want to get out and dribble the ball with their teammates. There's nothing been discussed about games and playing other people, etc. It's just been getting in that clinic, getting in that practicing that we're lacking, and the lack of gym space. So I think that that's something that we know that the high school has already been doing that for the past however many 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think needs to be considered too.
I went into 7th grade and 8th grade and asked for a show of hands who'd like to start basketball, because we've been having this basketball conversation for about a month. And I only had 3 boys in 8th grade.
And that might be because some of them are other places, right? I mean, that might be.
I know my kids. I know who they are. Those 3 boys aren't going anywhere. And
Okay.
some of the other kids who are stellar players said their parents don't want them playing. So I don't know the 25 athletes, but if Jessica says there probably are 25. I'm not aware of it, but we didn't offer it. They're not of obligation to share that with me. Just as we have kids going to dance and gymnastics, they're not reporting that.
And think about this for a second too. And I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer on this at all, but we just had 2 students test positive at Heartland for COVID, right? I think I put that out in a quick weekend update to everybody. Had those kids been involved in a recreational program or a sports program, because we only had to quarantine 2 pods, we might have had to shut the school down, because it would have spread into that many more classes. So I think that's the other side of the coin. And even though, like you said, Jessica, we've been practicing, for 4 weeks, but one of those 4 weeks we had 13, 9th graders who couldn't come to school. So, and again, I completely hear what you're saying, but it is that fine line and that balance between what's good. And I think Jean Marie described it best. I think what we're thinking about is for those kids that really want to hone their skills. And I agree. I don't think a lot of them are expecting to play games or all that stuff. But I think if we could, just add a skills clinic locally that they could participate in with some help from maybe some volunteers from both those schools and our JV and varsity coaches. If 10 kids show up, 10 kids show up. If 20 kids show up, 20 kids show up. But I just think it's offer versus serve. And I think it could be good for those kids. I think what's going to be more important is starting to think about, because we can extend that basketball season and that clinic. I mean, right now the high school season is going to extend. We're going to go beyond, normally we're wrapping up around February break. We're getting into the March playoffs. I mean, we're going to probably be going into April with basketball at the high school level. So my guess is we could do the same thing with a limited middle school clinic type arrangement as we move forward. But then we've got to start thinking about the spring, right? And once we can get outside, much like we did with soccer, and we did with lacrosse at the high school level, it's a little bit different because you can spread out, and the outdoor air mitigates the transmission, and we can think about that. But I just appreciate everybody's patience, especially parents. They're it's not like they're emailing me with explicatives, and they're not being disrespectful. They just, I think everybody's COVID fatigued, and they want things to kind of get back to normal, and it's probably going slower than people want it to go. But anyhow, we may have beaten this to death, but if anybody else has any thoughts, we're open for comments.
Okay, I guess not hearing any, we'll move on. The next item is the update on COVID stress, which we kind of covered, but if there are anybody on here that wanted to say anything in particular, if there are any teachers that wanted to say anything, I'll give you.
I did forget one thing with Jean Marie, though. What people don't know, because I know sometimes it sounds like she's, anti-athletic, but she was a starting point guard for the University of Connecticut varsity basketball team. So people don't know that, but
Yeah.
Well, tiny. How's that possible?
she was a small point guard, but she did it, and so that
Faster than anybody I know.
yeah,
Claim to fame.
absolutely.
Okay, I guess we will move on to town meeting date, which I'm guessing everybody already knows, but Weathersfield has decided to stay with the traditional dates for town meeting. We'll be having our school informational meeting February 27th at 10 a.m. That will be online. And there's information posted on the school website, and I believe also on the town website, and everybody got a postcard and in our flyer, we had the address for how to log on to that meeting. So hopefully everybody knows how to do that. If you don't, I'm sure you can find out on the, like I said, the school website, or give the school a call. They'll let you know how to get onto that meeting. And the actual voting will take place on March 2nd. And you can either vote in person at the town hall between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m., or you can request a mail-in ballot by calling the town office. And I also wanted to mention that there's going to be evaluations sent out to all the school board members, and I think Jean Marie's going to get a copy, and some other people, for David. His contract is up for renewal, so I just wanted to have you keep an eye out on your inbox for that. It's going to be sort of an individual thing this year, where it's a multiple choice, I believe, or a rating system, 1 to 5, on a few different categories. And if everybody can just fill that out and get that sent back in, we'll be working out those numbers, Angie style.
Yeah.
So if everybody can just do that, that will be a big help. And then we move on to the next thing, our items for action, and we have a Walmart community grant. Who was going to speak on that?
I will speak on that. So our guidance counselor has been very busy writing all kinds of grants. She wanted to have some supplemental materials for a program that we have at school called Second Step. And she's been pushing into classrooms and teaching. She found that the original kit was missing a lot of the puppets and a lot of the social stories and things that she needed. So very industrious. She wrote a couple of grants. One was to Walmart. My kitty cat is fighting me. She won't let me get to my notebook. I don't know if you can see her, but she is not happy that I'm not paying attention to her. I can't get it right now, but I'm pretty sure it's for $500, and it's to buy those materials. And Walmart awarded her that, and we now need the board's permission to spend that money to enhance our guidance program.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to approve a $500 grant from a Walmart community grant?
I will motion to approve a $500 grant from Walmart to help the guidance counselor.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay, it's unanimous. I guess Mark still isn't here.
No,
Here.
we lost Mark, but Mark was actually doing what he should do tonight. He's at,
Yeah.
I think his daughter is being inducted into the National Honor Society. So congratulations to Mark
Yes.
That's wonderful.
and his daughter.
Former student of our school, and a
Nice.
delight. A delight.
You know, the other thing too, Ann, at some point, I forgot to mention this earlier, but we should announce the finalists for we have 3 finalists now for the principalship. So
Oh yeah, we didn't have the principal.
yeah, I thought we were doing the update on a regular basis, and we didn't do it tonight. So just let me know, and I can announce those candidates.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and announce those?
Okay, so there are 3 finalists, and we're putting them through the paces this week because they're meeting with a variety of stakeholder groups, including administrators, staff, parents, students. I think Wednesday is the students. I don't know if BJ is still online, but I want to thank BJ because she did an incredible job as always, orchestrating all of these meets. And the search committee did a great job. Meredith, I don't know if Meredith's on the line, but Meredith Kelly just did a great job facilitating that group. And it was a big, yeah, there's Meredith. And it was a big group, and she's going to stay with us and help us organize, the parent stakeholder group. But I think it was a good search process. I think we've got three good solid candidates, all very different. The first is Heather Lawler, who is right now working in Windsor Central Supervisory Union, sometimes fondly called the Woodstock School District. She's the principal at the Reading School, which is just in our backyard, and she's also done other administrative jobs in that district. She's sort of been like a utility player, and she was a co-principal at the middle school in Woodstock for a while. And she is one of our finalists. Second finalist is somebody who will be familiar to a lot of folks, Nate McNaughton. And Nate is right now, and has been for his entire public school career, at Springfield Riverside Middle School. He started there as a teacher after finishing up his student teaching at Williston and his college work. And he's been there a fair amount of time. I think he started there, I'm just trying to go back, I think it was somewhere around 2001, and he's been there ever since. And most recently, he's been the assistant principal at the Riverside Middle School, which is 6, 7, and 8. The last I checked, maybe it's changed, but I think those are the grades that he's been responsible for. And he brings certainly a local twist to the candidate pool. And then last but not least, a little bit different than a local candidate, is a gentleman by the name of Brian Martis. And Brian hails from Menifee, California. And that's like on the other side of our continent. But he interviewed strongly. His paperwork was strong. He has been the K-8 principal of the Menifee Union School in Menifee, California. And it's a rather innovative public school. And again, it's K-8, which is similar to the Wethersfield School, a little different in the way it's organized, but he is interested in moving his family to the East Coast. His wife has relatives on the East Coast, and they've already sold their house. And he's interested enough in this job that he is flying in with his family on Sunday. So he's going to be visiting the area. We've encouraged him to take a good, strong look at Vermont if he's going to make this decision. My guess is Vermont is a little different than Southern California, and he has spent his entire life in California. And it'll be good for him to step off the plane, to see the snowbanks, and to realize that we've had a mild winter. So we'll make sure that we give him a good tour of the area, and he'll see the school. The other candidates will be visiting the school as well. And like I said, they're in these stakeholder groups right now. Jackie was your board rep, and she did a great job. She also knew that she was going to be part of the final decision-making process. So she was as an observer and participated when she could, but she was careful because she's going to take that next step, because in the end, the state law requires that the school board appoint the principal. And so you will have that responsibility. And we had talked, and we can talk now if you want to, or later. We had talked about trying to set up those final school board interviews for the week we're on vacation. So those are the finalists. I think any one of them would be a good leader for this building. And they've all got energy, and they all can commit a fair amount of time. It's not like somebody's going to come in here for a year or two and then leave. All of them want their next job to be a place they stay, and that's good for this community, and it's good for the Wethersfield School. So if anybody has any questions, this would be a time to ask them. And I don't know, Ann, whether you want to continue to talk about those interviews by email, or whether you want to talk about those tonight. We don't have Mark here, but Mark already said that Wednesday night works
Yeah,
for
he
him.
already said. And I can make it work too. Howard, I think Jackie, you said you could do it then?
Yeah, I said I could too.
Jackie's saying yes, and Kristen, you can make it work?
Okay.
Yep, yeah, I emailed that.
Okay,
So
great. Yeah, I did.
That'll be Wednesday then.
All right, that's good. So the final interviews then, there'll be executive session, because, part of it is is personnel related, and the discussion will certainly be an executive session, and we'll warn that because it's the full board. Jean's going to get to meet with the candidates the morning of the 17th, and kind of, she's got a lot of experience that she'll share with them. And then those final interviews will be the night of the 17th, and I'll get that word out to those candidates, and hopefully we can deliberate and maybe come up with our choice and offer the position. It'd be nice if we could have somebody to introduce to the community at our annual meeting on the 27th.
Jackie? Jackie's got her hand up.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a bit and just curious, Dr. Baker, does it make sense? I'm going to be sitting in as an observer on the forums, but does it make sense for other board members to also be invited to observe at those if they want to? Oh, you're muted.
I see two potential problems with that. First of all, every single stakeholder group is going to fill out a rating sheet, right? So you're going to get all of those total ratings back. So you're going to know, how each of those subgroups, rated the candidates. So I think you'll get that feedback. To Jackie's point, I think the problem there would be, unless you could organize it properly, and that might take some organization, is once you get 3 board members at one of those stakeholder meetings, you have to warn that meeting, and it has to be a public meeting. So again, my recommendation just to all of you is that Jackie continue to represent you. I think she'll bring the information and the tenor and the climate of those meetings back to you. There are some stakeholder meetings that we've kept relatively private because we wanted people to be able to talk openly and honestly, like the union met with all 3 candidates today. And I think the union, has deserves the right to speak openly and frankly, without me around or without the board around. And the same thing with the administrative team. I didn't sit in on that one either. But the rest of them, Jackie, certainly BJ can make sure you're invited to the student, staff, parent, and municipal one. But again, I want to thank Meredith and BJ who've turned their cameras on. This was an enormous amount of work. We had 18 members on that search committee, and Meredith facilitated those meetings, and it wasn't always easy because everybody has their favorite candidate. Everybody has their own, they bring their own biases to the table. And, but I think it was a very transparent process. And that was in large part due to Meredith's coordination, the executive committee, and BJ's organization.
So is that okay with you, Jackie, for you to be sort of our rep to those meetings? Are you available for them?
Yes, I was actually already appointed to do that, and I have been invited. I have accepted.
Okay, great.
We'll be at all the meetings, the forums.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jack. That's
Thank you.
helpful. And we'll set up that other meeting on the 17th.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to add to the principal search? Okay. Oh, Meredith?
Could
Meredith.
I just want to make a public thank you to all those who served on the search committee. We started in October and ended last week. And everyone put in a lot of time reviewing all the documents that were sent our way, many meetings, and many tough discussions. So I just want to thank the whole committee and Dr. Baker and BJ, especially for helping us get through this part of the process. And good luck with the rest. We'll be waiting to see how you decide.
Well, thank you very much, Meredith. We appreciate
you.
all the hard work you put in.
Thank you.
Next on, well, I guess the next thing we want to do is setting the next agenda. Hello? David?
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, so we're, let's see.
It'll be a reorganization meeting because we have the vote by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be, and we have a special agenda for that, that first item is just elect the chair, elect the vice chair, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So organization will be a big part of it. I think we should probably put budget on there just, because we may, hopefully we won't be talking about having to bring a budget back, but we might. So I would keep that on there.
Okay. And we'll probably have COVID updates still and athletic updates still.
Yep.
And COVID stress still.
Principal update.
Yeah, principal update, if not, nomination. Yep.
So I think that sounds like a pretty full meeting. Does anybody have anything else they want to add to the meeting for next month?
Oh, I actually did. If we talked and maybe next month isn't going to, maybe it's going to be too full to discuss it, but it might actually be a great time since we're reorganizing. I would like to put forth, I'd like to see student participation at the board meetings, 5-10 minute presentation in whatever format someone decides, whether it's we give them a topic and they come back with their responses or they present to us. But I think it's important that we do hear from the students every month.
Is that something Jean Marie or BJ wants to see if there's any student interest in coming to the board?
And that could be as simple as, like, Jean, you reported out about that project. I mean, sometimes it's just good to hear from students about what they're doing in school. So, I mean, we could, and keep it really short and really brief.
Sure. What I can do is I'll start to announce it before we do the pledge in the morning. We do morning announcements and invite any student who thinks they'd like to attend and maybe present something. I'll open it up, and then they just need to come and let me know so I know if they need a PowerPoint or, how long it's going to be. And then I'll remind them. And you may or may not get kids. I think we need to leave it open-ended and see. Again, it's a pandemic, and I think kids are exhausted, especially those kids 7 hours a day wearing masks. I know myself that I try to stay up for world news at 7 at night. I'm not making it most nights. I try. I love Norah O'Donnell, but I just can't do it. So I think that, I don't want anybody offended if this is not the time or place. In the past, we've had kids present. Jackie, you know that. You've seen them come in, and they knock the socks off of the school board. They are great public speakers. They're innovative. They're proud of their work. It's just a different world right now. So I'm going to offer it up, but I just want you to know if it doesn't happen, I don't want you offended. We're just not there yet.
Okay. Do we have anything for executive session tonight? I don't think so.
No, I think we're okay.
Okay. Did I get a motion to adjourn? Does anybody have anything else? We haven't. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Kristen, that's the way to go.
It's me or Jackie.
I need a second.
Kristen,
I
for
guess
one.
Jackie seconds. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no doubt.
All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Hey, it sounds unanimous to me. Thanks,
And we did-
everybody.
Yeah, we're getting out a lot earlier, so good job, Ann.
Yeah.
Well done.
Nice job, Ann.